All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Thomas Leferrier, and I'm with Making Sense International, and I'd like to welcome you to the final day of breakout sessions at the Global Youth Economic Opportunities Summit. So with that, if you have any other technical issues, you can message me through the chat on the side. But I would like to introduce Diane Crosby as the facilitator of the Entrepreneurial Ecosystem before, during, and post-COVID Egyptian case study session. So thank you all for joining, and Diane, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate it. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you may be at this time. Thank you so much for joining our session. I am a program development director for MTC and happy to kick this off. So our goal today is to hopefully give you some insights on recent efforts and programming in the development of youth entrepreneurship in Egypt, and giving you a variety of stakeholder perspectives. We hope to address a few things today: the role of the Egyptian Education Ministry in support of youth entrepreneurship, provide some factors that support young entrepreneurs, how an entrepreneurial ecosystem and culture are often supported by the development community, and how young Egyptian entrepreneurship is being impacted by the coronavirus. So today, quickly, I'd like to introduce our panel. We're happy to have Dr. Ahmed Ashmawi, advisor to the Ministry of Education and Technical Education in Egypt. He has served in advisory capacities for many institutions, and his expertise covers TVET reform, work-based learning, and TVET policy, among many others. Mr. Mohammed Fauzi is with us today. He's Deputy Chief of Party and Technical Lead for the USAID Workforce Improvement and Skill Enhancement, or WISE project in Egypt. Again, Mohammed is a TVET expert in his own right, and his experience is in a range of topics such as competency-based training, apprenticeships, job placement initiatives, and certainly entrepreneurship. Ms. Perihan Taufik is the project coordinator with International Labor Organization in Egypt. She is a leader in enhancing employment and entrepreneurial opportunities for young people in Egypt, and she's worked for the ILO since 1999, including a number of projects such as Decent Jobs for Egypt's Young People. And last but not least, Dr. Radwa Keder, who is Program Manager with the Egypt WISE project, and she is an expert in small and medium enterprise development, as well as entrepreneurship. She's worked with the Egypt Ministry of Trade and Industry, as well as projects funded by AID, UN, and Canadian aid. So with that, I would like to go ahead and kick off the questions with Radwa. Radwa, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Rod, so in order to set the stage for our participants and to give some context for this ecosystem discussion, I'd like for you to give us a picture of the Egyptian enterprise entrepreneurship ecosystem and talk a little bit about its various components so that we have a sense of the environment that is the content of our topic today.
Okay, thanks, Dan, for the introduction. It's my utmost pleasure to be here in the conference and among the esteemed members of the panel. Well, as an answer to your question, I have to say that Egypt has, over the past few years, ramped up its entrepreneurial activity, becoming the fastest growing ecosystem in the MENA region. Some people say that Egypt's ecosystem still ranks low compared to global averages, but the fact is it has leaped impressive steps in recent years. An overall positive trend for entrepreneurship in Egypt has started off in 2016 and actually back in 2011, right after the revolution, with all the institutions, ideas, entrepreneurs, and startups coming out of the box. While Egypt's ecosystem has been growing rapidly, there was an increase as well in both the number of organizations that support entrepreneurs and the number of startups as well. And as we can see from the first slide, Egypt ranks the first as one of the MENA's top 5 countries in the number of startup deals in 2019, which making almost 25% out of the 564 startup deals in the region. As a matter of fact, Egypt has barely been actually having different investment rounds. Barely a week goes by before the coronavirus without a startup in Egypt announcing an investment round. Next slide, Thomas. And to be honest, you know, the situation before the crisis is not like during or post the COVID crisis. As I said, barely a week goes by without a startup in Egypt announcing an investment round. As you can see, the yearly funding and the number of startup deals has been increasing steadily since 2015 till 2019. And to be honest, one of Egypt's main characteristics is inclusiveness, as the ecosystem opens the door for all entrepreneurs in all the fields where there are opportunities for everyone. Again, before the COVID-19 crisis, the investment scene in Egypt was improving with increasing VCs in the market and more impact investments. Egypt has become a mature market where the demand for funding meets supply and more people are eager or were eager to invest. They had the appetite, of course, before the COVID-19 crisis, and they are still eager to invest in the sector. And with the coronavirus, my colleague Mohammed will explain further what has happened during or post the COVID-19 crisis. But we need to say what makes an ideal entrepreneurship ecosystem looks like. Next slide, please, Thomas. So what makes an ideal entrepreneurship ecosystem is all about the support, the sufficient infrastructure and the support institutions available in the ecosystem. It's about the culture, the success stories of the startups and entrepreneurs. It's about the policies, rules, and regulations set by the government, which is the regulatory body in the ecosystem, and it is the leader of the ecosystem. You have the marketplace, you have the pool of talents with the skilled workforce and the educational institutions. You have the access to finance, making startups and entrepreneurs more bankable and more applicable to receive the funds from angel groups and VCs. The Global Entrepreneurship Monitor said that the strength of Egypt's ecosystem lies in the physical infrastructure and the internal market dynamics. Entrepreneurs, finance, and institutions would be seen as the main players in the ecosystem, where the government represents a regulatory body that sets the legal and regulatory framework, as I said, providing the necessary infrastructure and work on leveraging the human capital through entrepreneurial formal training, as we can see in the next slide. Thomas, next slide. In this slide, as I said, Egypt harbors one of the largest number of entrepreneurship institutions in the MENA region. The map has lots of details, but it explains the complexity of the ecosystem, and it gives or it serves as a basic guide to anyone. So this is quickly. Hello, Diane?
Yep, we're here.
Yep. This quickly gives us a quick overview on the complexity of the ecosystem and how it looks like. But definitely there are more like on the different challenges that startups face and that led the government make them more able to access different support services or support structures to be able to face problems and challenges. The different startups. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Is there another slide?
Yes. No, this is for the ecosystem.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We've got a few more minutes. We need to get through a little bit here.
Okay. I'll continue with the challenges faced by startups. Overall, Egypt's ranking is comparable to other efficiency-driven economies, and to fully pursue a course towards becoming a more knowledge-driven economy, Egypt needs to further strengthen its ecosystem by overcoming a number of persisting challenges. While this is not an easy task, the right foundations have already been laid down. Well, aside from entrepreneurship education that my colleague panelists will talk about, the main challenge for entrepreneurship in Egypt is the poor supply of funding. Despite the rapidly growing ecosystem and the ability of different entrepreneurs and startups to access different finances from VCs or bank loans and so on and so forth. Still, there's some sort of poor supply of funding available for entrepreneurs, especially those located outside the capital city. You know, like everything is concentrated in Cairo, sometimes Alexandria or Giza, but those in Lower Egypt or Upper Egypt are quite suffering. And the access to finance, as I said, is one main challenge. The supply and demand factors contribute to the accessibility of entrepreneurs to formal finance, which is banking. On the supply side, there lies the diversity in facilities and institutions, providing them the regulatory framework, the overall economic environment, and the availability of information on how to approach these institutions. While on the demand side, only formally registered enterprises can have access to formal facility. In Egypt, almost 20% of all the SMEs and entrepreneurs, they choose to go unregistered to avoid taxes and labor laws, for instance, and thus they would not have access to formal finances, even with efficient financial institutions. But the Central Bank of Egypt has issued an initiative back in 2015 for supporting SMEs and entrepreneurs. And based on the initiative, the Central Bank of Egypt obliged Egyptian banks to give out 20% out of their total loans portfolio to SMEs and entrepreneurs. This has given access to almost 350,000 SMEs with 200 billion Egyptian pounds over the course of 4 years at an interest rate of 5%. The statement of the Central Bank of Egypt included redefining the SMEs to include companies that make annual revenues of 50 million Egyptian pounds. Another source of funding is the angel funding, either from family members, angel funding networks, or incubators. These, I would say, these are the main sources of financing for SMEs and entrepreneurs in Egypt. VCs, bank loans, and loans from other financial institutions, as well as crowdfunding, contributed less to funding the SMEs in Egypt. There has been actually a lot going on in this category of local VCs and angel groups, with many new VC funds and angel groups being launched, especially back in 2017, 18, and 19. For example, we have Algebra Funds. Thomas, please, next slide. It is the largest Egyptian fund with $50 million that was announced, and it made few investments later on. Also, in terms of Cairo Angels is one of the most important angel groups in Egypt that clearly leads the pack with companies like Instabug, Ventus, Bosta in their own portfolio. And these are very strong startups that led the whole scene in the past 3 years. For example, Swivel, an application for booking buses that is competing with Uber and Careem, it recently closed with $42 million investment round, making the biggest VC investment deal in the country and the highest in the MENA in the second quarter of 2019. And actually, you know what, like the regional VCs have been showing lots of interest in the Egyptian ecosystem and the Egyptian startups lately. And that gave more strength to the Egyptian ecosystem and the Egyptian startups. Another source.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Can we just? We've got a few more minutes. Not even a few more minutes. If you don't mind, just for the sake of getting along.
Sure. 1 minute. One minute, and I'll wrap up.
Please.
Okay. Okay, one last support that has been given to the SMEs and startups in Egypt is the advisory services. You know, despite the innovation, enthusiasm, and shifts in minds, there is another big challenge that there is no access to people who can coach entrepreneurs and innovators until they launch their own businesses or they launch their own products. So, and you know, startups cannot always deal with such challenges internally, and that's why the Central Bank of Egypt again has launched a very successful initiative called Entrepreneurial that aims to enhance the ecosystem by establishing many business development support centers in cooperation with the Nile University to help support and provide advisory services to SMEs and entrepreneurs. The last kind of support that SMEs and entrepreneurs receive in Egypt is the form of accelerators and incubators. And until a few years ago, Thomas, next slide, please. The only startup accelerator in Egypt was Flat 6 Lab, but things have changed pretty quickly in the last few years, with many new accelerators helping the startups as well as incubators. And actually, the Egyptian government has been very active lately, launching different programs to help the startups. And these were launched by the Ministry of Information and Telecommunications and the Ministry of Investment and International Cooperation. In conclusion, I need to say to end this that Egypt's market enjoys significant potentials that catalyze entrepreneurship ecosystem to achieve robust upgrade. It is believed that entrepreneurship shall be the best alternative the government should invest in order to create better opportunities to the youth and gain in turn its fruits on the long run. SMEs in Egypt already contribute to the economy with almost 25% to the GDP and almost 85% to the employment. And that leaves us to the conclusion that if startups are given the right support, their contribution to the employment and the economy's performance will be much more significant. Thank you so much, Diane, for giving me all that much time. I'm
sorry,
so
sorry.
for being on the presentation. Thank you so much.
Very rich information. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and talk to Dr. Ashmawi. So Radwa just described a very rich in ecosystems, and I understand that the Egyptian Ministry of Education is putting an emphasis on introducing entrepreneurship education into the Egyptian public technical schools. So if you will, can you please tell us a little bit more about Egypt's efforts in that regard?
Okay, thank you, Diana, for the introduction and this opportunity, and thank you, Radwa, for setting the scene for this. Before I talk about the ministry's initiatives in education, I just like to emphasize that what Radwa has presented, obviously very impressive and puts Egypt in a very important position in comes to entrepreneurship, but what I'm concerned about and what I will talk about in a minute is specifically about graduates from technical education. They may not get the same kind of opportunities that Radwa has presented. So this is really the concern. But before I also address the entrepreneurship education part, I'd like to also address some of the reform or transformation initiatives that the Ministry of Education and Technical Education is taking to develop the technical education sector, which addresses core issues like student-centered education and, of course, their development in all aspects, including entrepreneurship areas. Thomas, can we move to the next slide, please? So the technical education strategy 2.0 has 5 main pillars that we are working on, again, with the development partners, the different development parts, including, of course, USAID as a main partner in this initiative. But again, transforming quality, all aspects of quality, both internal within the Ministry of Education through a central unit for quality assurance, but also more widely in the TVET landscape. With a new authority for quality assurance, and the quality assurance means every aspect of the technical education, from the schools, the teachers, students, every aspect of it should be addressed. Then again, an initiative in transforming the curricula into more relevant competency-based curricula. And here also a big initiative that we're going through is all the developed curricula for entrepreneurship education will be reviewed to be compatible with these new curriculums that we are developing to highlight specific competencies that are needed in the labor market. Of course, teacher training and qualification through a dedicated academy, transform school through employer engagement, and specifically focusing on work-based learning. Again, a very important aspect for students to learn and to be exposed to the real environment before they graduate, and they can, of course, will have opportunities to look at their own self-employment or entrepreneurship initiatives after that. And of course, all this leads to a better image for technical education. Next slide. So I move now to addressing your question about what we have been doing recently in entrepreneurial education initiatives, which really mainly started in 2015 with the start of the USAID WISE project and other initiative. There was a ministerial decree to incorporate this in some schools in technical education. There was an agreement between the different development partners, USAID, International Labor Organization, UNIDO, TVET, which is an EU-funded project, and the German government. They all work together for the first time in an initiative like this to come up with a program for entrepreneurial education. Then they started working in training teachers and multipliers that will be teaching the students directly in the schools that have been selected. Then the implementation at the school level, implementation for competitions, different competitions that also emphasized on entrepreneurial skills and entrepreneurship. And then at some stage in 2017, 2018, the group of development partners with the ministry decided that, again, we need to move a little bit further from the mindset of self-employment to really entrepreneurship and more of innovation. So they decided, or we as a ministry and the development partners decided to integrate innovation curricula and with entrepreneurship, and we came up with a unified version, which is now being implemented in a large number of schools since 2018, 2019 academic year. And at the moment, the next steps is really to review this, come up with a steering committee that looks into anything related to transition to employment, and really, as I said, move the mindset from really thinking of TVET or technical education graduates that would look onto self-employment as an opportunity, but more into entrepreneurship, innovation, coming up with really innovative ideas that can take this, as I said, what Radwa explained is always been focused on university graduates, especially in the tech industry. We need to really address what comes out on this, and we've seen very impressive, very inspiring model examples of students from technical education who got through competitions that have been organized by USAID WISE in the past few years, who came up with really very interesting and inspiring examples from students of technical education. So that is my answer to the first question.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Again, very rich, dynamic environment. And you've given us a lot of moving parts in terms of the education initiative, but in your opinion, how do various entrepreneurship efforts impact actual youth employment? Or again, you've talked about the innovation in Egypt's technical education, but talk a little bit about, from your perspective, the impact that you've seen so far.
Sure. Next slide, please, Thomas, if you don't mind. Thank you. Again, to be honest, we still need to assess, really assess the impact. It's too early to do this if you consider that graduates graduate within 3 years and we need to complete tracer studies. But we are working on this with the development partners through this steering committee of the transition to employment that we are going to start activating. And this is really important to assess the impact, to look at the different examples that have. But nevertheless, there is positive indicators that we look at. The difference between students and schools that go through entrepreneurship and innovation learning, if you compare them with their peers who haven't done it, you can see, you can really see the difference in their ability, in their confidence, the fact that they participate in the different competitions. Their presentation skills, their confidence, all this you can really see, and in fact, especially when you look at the different competencies that they are exposed to through the curricula that we have developed with the development partners. Innovation is a big part of it. Planning, financial planning, critical thinking, working as a team, self-motivation, all these are core competencies within the curricula that you can see, and has obviously positively impacted on the students that go. And again, I don't want to also underestimate the impact that has gone to this when introducing programs like this in the image of technical education. This is a key issue. The social perception in Egypt about technical education graduates is changing, and we are hope to work on that further. But you can see it with these competitions, with these highlighting of this, you can see a gradual increase of students applying for technical education in the past couple of years, and we feel that these are quite important byproducts of the work that we are doing with the different partners in entrepreneurship and innovation, particularly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to hear that it's all of this has ancillary support of really improving that social perception everywhere. That's a hard nut to crack and to get at. So that's wonderful to hear another benefit. Mohammed, shifting a little bit, impacts of COVID is on everyone's mind in many ways. So how has the entrepreneurship system changed as a result of the impact of COVID, and what do you see either as short-term and/or potential long-term changes in the system?
Okay, thank you, Diane, and it's really my pleasure to be among all of you today. As you know, and as everybody knows, COVID have its pros and cons. One of its important pros that you can see my top half only, for example, so you don't know if I wear only the jacket here. But let's say that COVID has affected so many countries. I mean, almost the whole world. Egypt have its share from the COVID-19 problems. Egypt government had adapted a range of precautions for the public safety, starting maybe from social distancing, partial curfews, and maybe telework. Which happened also in so many places. But again, as I started to say, COVID is a double-edged sword. COVID and the crisis of such pandemics gives an opportunity to think out of the box, gives an opportunity to start a kind of innovation process. So you can find an idea and start a project to solve a problem that people might be currently facing because of the pandemic. If you can look at the slides in front of you right now, you will find, yes, some sectors have been affected by the COVID in a negative way, while others have been affected in a positive way. For example, the potential losers, if you can see, tourism is severely affected by the COVID and the pandemic problems and crisis. Comes after aviation and maritime and so on, till you go to a sector like the medical supply and services, which really have gained a lot and have opened a space for entrepreneurs to start providing services in that sector. Comes after also in the gains, food processing and retail and healthcare and ICT and so on. So it's not all regardless, of course, the problems of the health of the people, it's not all only cons when it comes to the investment and the entrepreneurial opportunities, but there is also pros people can use. For example, online gaming and entertainment have grown by almost 40 to 50% after the outbreak. Egypt also have provided so many opportunities for funding to find solutions and to encourage people to deal with the pandemic and the crisis. I don't know if I answered your question, Diane.
Mohammed, I think we're all have many questions about impact of COVID. Absolutely, that's a good grounding and start across the sector.
Okay.
So a little bit of different switch. So for broadly, what are some of the various key factors or mechanisms that would support young entrepreneurs in Egypt? Some of which we've heard, but from your perspective.
Okay, if we go, Thomas, please, to the next slide. Access to technology is no longer something people can afford not to have. So access to technology became crucial and became important due to the pandemic even more and more. So if we look to Egypt initiatives, actually some of them was even before the pandemic, but it turned out to be that we were on the right steps, on the right track, on the right way. And we kind of we're preparing ourselves to challenge the current situation without even knowing at the time that this might happen. If we look, for example, at the educational system, the Egyptian educational system, the system started to focus since September 2018 on the technology. We have started to lend a great deal and a great focus to empower the students to work through technology. They even started to deliver tablet with high internet connection or connectivity features. The ministry started to include access to the Egyptian Knowledge Bank, started to produce interactive curriculums on both general and technical education fronts, so students can work through interactive way. Also, the ministry started to adapt a new important way of teaching, given the current situation, which we call a blended learning approach. Blended learning approach, due to the importance for TVET students and for technical students and graduates to have kind of hands-on training to gain the skills, which it will be difficult to provide on optimum way using internet access or connectivity. This is why blended learning somehow, I think in Egypt and in so many countries, somehow came to front, solving a big deal and a big issue, which also gave the opportunity to the schools using the blended learning to maximize precautions like social distancing, because like that, schools have the opportunity to rotate between the students inside its premises. So not all the students have to be there at the same time. Minimal number can be there, minimum number can practice skills on machineries, and so on and so forth. So we are kindly approaching, the rotational model of blended learning in some way, with also features of the enriched virtual mechanisms and technology. Another approach Egypt has also anticipated and planned for, which really materialized more and more with time, and especially those days, is Egypt's strategy, ICT strategy 2030, which we call Digital Egypt. Digital Egypt strategy has been designed almost, I guess, 10 years ago, and it depends on a certain objective, such as developing the ICT infrastructure, fostering digital inclusion, achieving the transition to knowledge-based economy, build the capacities and encouraging innovation, fighting corruption, ensuring cybersecurity, promoting Egypt's position on the regional and international level. And actually, this Digital Egypt strategy is built on 3 main pillars of including digital transformation, digital skills and jobs, and digital innovation. I cannot deny, of course, that we didn't reach the optimum status yet because of connectivity, for example, is not the same when it comes to the governorates of Egypt. Some governorates have higher facility and connectivity, and others have still problems. And this is why, again, blended learning, students go to schools in rotational way, so they can have CDs, they have opportunity to practice on machinery. So it's kind of a middle way approach due to the nature of the TVET sector itself. If I would also talk about something that's really encouraging the talents of Egypt to seek and search for innovative ideas and solutions, I here can echo what my colleague Ahmed was saying about the entrepreneurial competitions. Entrepreneurship competitions are many in Egypt. Are some of them which was actually sponsored by MTC, USAID, WISE program, and some was sponsored by other entities. So, for example, talking about WISE program, we have been doing 3 editions till now for a competition called Innovative Technician or Fanny Mubtaker. It started actually in 2018, and second version was in 19, and the third version was in 2020, with the final will be in December, God's will. This, of course, competition happens in cooperation with the Ministry of Education and Technical Education. And we have another player here, another important player also working with us, which is the Egyptian Academy for Scientific Research and Technology. The new version of the competition even called Fanny Mubtaker versus Corona or versus COVID-19. It's a digital version of the competition, which also empowers and enhances the digital competencies of our students and teachers. The criteria of the competition and the ideas is all about solutions to the COVID-19. So who can provide solution to provide services, to provide products, to guarantee interaction or things like that through the internet. There is other competition like NAWA competition, which is really held by the Middle East Council for Small Business in Egypt in cooperation with ILO, which we participated in and other developing partners did in the past. And also there is other competition called Injaz Egypt, which also an NGO, non-profit organization, Egypt, doing their work based on voluntary approaches. Let me show you some picture, if I may, Thomas, you can shift. This is, for example, a picture which shows, this is a jury in the front and shows our last face-to-face version 2019 of the Fanny Mubtaker competition and the audience. And next slide, please. And also here, Mason was students presenting an idea of a small desktop CNC. And these students have already started their own company a year ago now, and they started their own production and they seeked more incubation, more funding, and they are really, we are happy and to see such a success story. Next slide, please. Here we can see also the closing and the closure when everybody took a photo together with the checks and the winners. And to enhance this kind of competitions, we had to also feed in what we call innovation clubs. Those innovation clubs actually are equipped with Fab Labs, and those Fab Labs has really provide a lot of facilitation to the students so they can really pursue and work on their prototypes. So if we can go to the next picture, I can show you, yes, this is an example of one of the Fab Labs we have established in one of the schools. It's fully equipped with so many machinery, automatic and hand machineries and tools, and students can use this space. And if we go to the next slide, you will see some students already using the place. This was before Corona and COVID-19 era. Actually, after that, we're still using those facilities, but of course, we have to minimize that the number of the people can access it. At the same time, we are keeping social distancing. We are trying to also to take all the precautions in this regard. My last thing I would like to mention here is important part of the ecosystem for entrepreneurship in Egypt, what we call a one-stop shops or one window. The one-stop shops in Egypt is an initiative started around 10 years ago. So many development partners have been participating on this one-stop shops, and USAID had played a major role in establishing those one-stop shops in Egypt. The idea in a simple way that if you are an entrepreneur or you have a current business, you are expanding your business or whatever you do, you just need to go to one window where you can place your requests with your papers, and this one window will process all the permits or whatever licensing you need, and you can receive it in a shorter time frame. And also, it's another tool to prevent corruption. So this is also can to fit into the whole ecosystem, easing what we call ease business or easing to business. And this have been great happening in Egypt with a big coverage right now. And sorry for being long, and thank you, Diane. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks. Very great. Good content there. Perihan, you've been with ILO for a number of years and you've worked on some exciting projects. Can you give us an idea about how ILO has supported the largest number of youth entrepreneur beneficiaries in Egypt? And looking forward to hearing.
Thank you, Diane. I'm very pleased and very happy to be among the panelists. The group of panelists actually are from the ecosystem that we're working with in Egypt. So I'm happy to apply what we are presenting. First of all, I started working on entrepreneurship in 2008, and the methodology of the ILO is to start with checking if there is demand on any topic, and then they get the political will and the political commitment. Then we do a pilot phase followed by institutionalization of any program that we have. So in 2009, I was happy enough to travel to the US and to attend my first ever US conference. It was the Making Sense conference in December. Actually, it was in October 2009. And I was an observer. I was young at this age, this year, and I was a little bit curious to know how the organization is of the big conferences. It was so big, and actually I observed everything. I took note, and I did something similar in 2010. It was a regional conference on entrepreneurship education, and this conference resulted in getting a big fund for a project called Decent Jobs for Egypt's Young People. It was a 10 million project. 10 million Canadian dollars project, and this project started in 2011. We did a lot of successes, so we got another funding for 5 million. This project has this project of Decent Jobs for Young People has reached 216,000 Egyptian persons, young people. 40% of them, 40% are women. So we have reached through our different programs, especially the Know About Business program, about 142,000 students that received type of course that is related to entrepreneurship. We have also had 5,100 startups. So we have started also to work on a strategy that was submitted to the government, and it was participatory from everyone in this ecosystem that is in front of you. So we had the organizations with us, big companies, universities. We have service providers, funding organizations. We had about 150 people in the conference to get out this strategy, draft strategy. And now it's in the board of the biggest training entity to be passed. And like in a week or so, we'll receive some of the feedback. Next slide, please. So the ILO intervention, usually we have a lot of support. So my slide is a little bit too much, but I'm not going to read it. Actually, I will talk about what is in it. So the main thing is the technical cooperation through programs and projects. And we have a lot of training tools We have gamification approach in the tool. So we have different, about 12 entrepreneurship tools. One of them is the Start and Improve Your Business that has the startup part. So we have this program that is composed of 4 parts, and we apply in Egypt the first 3 parts: the Generate Your Business Idea, the Start Your Business, and the Improve Your Business. We have also some research that we are doing, and we do some work with the universities. We subcontract some freelancers. So this is mainly with our specialists. We do the work in Cairo. We also have some tailor-made programs that are based on demand. We work usually focusing on entrepreneurship, access to market, enabling environment for sustainable development. We look at the working conditions of the startups. We do also some things that are related to the ecosystem. So we have the international conferences, and we started the conferences in 2010. Then we started something called the social entrepreneurship in 2015. And this conference was big enough. It was done in Red Sea Governorate, and we started with it the competition called Naweh. And it was the first edition of the competition in 2015. You see the logos up in the slide. So you see the Know About Business that started. And then afterwards, we have created the online Know About Business in 2013. We started the Start Your Business in 2013 also. And we are growing it. Now we are having the SYB with the COVID-19. We have also the Naweh competition that started in 2015, but we actually created this type of cooperation with other entities in 2016. This competition has been growing, as well as the Egypt Entrepreneurship Summit that started in 2016. Now our main partner, who was the Middle East Council for Small Business, that is affiliate of the International Council for Small Business of George Washington University. And now we have the Gen Egypt that is responsible for the EES, or the Egypt Entrepreneurship Summit, as well as the competition. They are, after the first and second year, they have been like gurus in this, and they have also worked with us to find partners. Now the ILO is not funding and is no more giving any technical support, so they flew alone. And I put for you some references if someone wants to Google a little bit and read about them. Everything now is online with the COVID-19. So we are having this conference that is happening in November. This year it will be on presence and online. So some of the speakers will be online, and others will be in Aswan Governorate in Egypt. We have also the competition that is happening online in a sense, and is happening in presence in Aswan. So we're having blended, like Muhammad was saying, we are having a blended version of the competition. So Diane, is it?
That's great. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. And so you've talked about embedding the culture of entrepreneurship within the system. Would you have any other sort of insight from ILO's perspective?
Yes, please. So maybe we go to the second slide. Thomas, please. Yes, thank you. So we started with the Know About Business. That was in 2008. We started this with a pilot phase with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Trade and Industry, Ministry of Higher Education, and Ministry of Manpower. We piloted the first phase, and it succeeded. Then we moved from the culture, that was to embed the culture within the students. We went to another level of access to other type of beneficiaries. So we went to the beneficiaries who want to start a business, really to open a business that is formal. But unfortunately, like Radwa was saying, that we are having about 70% of our startups who are in the informal sector due to different reasons that Radwa mentioned. So we're having now the Start and Improve Your Business. We have for Egypt 9 master trainers. This is the highest number in the region. We have 80 trainers that have been certified out of the very big bunch of trainers that have been trained, 489, and it's the largest ever, I think, after China, I believe so. So we're having 13,500 beneficiaries, and we are still working on the beneficiaries. So this is a little number in comparison to the number of trainers till now, because it's we have been training trainers from all the governorates. Also, Radwa was saying this, that we do not have a lot of BDS in the governorate, or a lot of access to people and facilities in the governorate. So we wanted to have spread out of the trainers all over. With the pandemic, we got in May, actually, like an official request from the Minister of Trade and Industry to have an ESYB. So she asked for having training courses for the same trained certified trainers and master's trainers to get the e-learning. And we succeeded to train 40 of the freelancers and the MENA staff. And we have also started actually to do the online training since July. We have also created something called Entrepreneurs Club, and this Entrepreneurs Club, it's like the business club for the older ones, but this is for entrepreneurs, not the business people, the startups and the young people. And we launched it actually 2 months ago. It's for exchanging experience. We started virtual because of COVID-19, and it will be in each governorate. We will have a club where people meet to exchange and have maybe do deals together. So for this, in a nutshell, we have reached throughout the culture that we have created through NAWA competition, for instance, 6 million people, through young people actually through Facebook and different types of social media. We have also reached people from different parts of the globe. So we are having in our conferences for like the 5 past years, we have about, I don't know, but maybe more than 8 international experts per session, maybe, or per round, to have a lot of people. We had like more than 100 people coming from different countries on yearly thing. So we have also created partnerships with the USAID WISE project. We have created partnership with GIZ, with TVET, and also we have created with the UNIDO and different other partners, and we are working together to spread out more and more the entrepreneurship culture. And without all the efforts of everyone, we couldn't have reached these big numbers. And I think.
Thank you so much. We just have a minute or two left. If anyone has a question, Mohammed, I think you can field those questions, or a question at least. If not, Mohammed, are you?
Yes, sorry, Diane. Yes.
No problem. Let me see what we have. Or you can also, just in terms of wrapping up, Mohammed, I think one of the things that we're interested in is any application for actions for other systems and other replication or transfer.
For other countries, okay. I will talk on 2 dimensions or 2 main pillars here. First, you need to pave the way for talents. So it's very important that you prepare the youth, the young people, and to allow them to innovate and to come up with their own ideas to solve either social problems or commercial one. So it's very important to pave this way through education, through other NGOs or private sector or government, to be able to enhance and improve talents within the country. The second pillar, once you have the talents, you need to really, in my opinion, put the parts of the ecosystem together, the infrastructure for entrepreneurship together. In my opinion, it's very important, especially for the developing countries and the poor countries, that systems are there to provide seed funding as well as equity funding. Seed funding is always a challenge for any entrepreneur with a good idea who does not have access to resources. And it became always kind of challenge in Egypt also. So especially interest sometimes are high. So seed talents, if you have a good visibility, you need to find a bank or a partner or angel investor or whatever that are willing to really invest in your idea. And this is, I think, is important front countries need to tackle. Last thing, in my opinion, the legislation framework of the country. how the legislation are really empowered SMEs and young entrepreneurs and businesses. If there is kind of taxation exemption when it comes to important products or whatever in the country that the country already used to import, this might encourage people to invest and startups to begin and the SMEs to expand. Those are, in my opinion, is the most important pillars of any country would like really to encourage and entrepreneurs to start small businesses in their own. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You.
Again, this has been recorded, so if you're interested in looking and presenting, viewing this from a different perspective with your colleagues, I invite the participants to go back to the main chat room through the original link. And I want to thank all of the panelists for their very rich contributions in today's discussion. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
And thank you, Diane, for facilitating. Like Diane mentioned, all of this will be was recorded, will be posted along with PowerPoint. So please, I encourage you to go back to the closing session, as Diane said, through the original link. Thank you all for joining today.
Thank you.